Well, hi, everybody. Good to see you, eh? And on this Stanley Cup thing, if you loved us, America, why do you deny us that cup for 24 years? Have we ever done anything that mean to you? Now, just, you keep that in mind. Oh, dear, you torture us by doing that, but we'll get over it. I think they're redoing the NAFTA deal, and I honestly think if the U.S. president would kick in a guarantee that every 5 years Canada gets at least one cup, we'd probably sign anything he wanted us to sign, but anyway. I just want to start by saying I really appreciated the kind acknowledgement by several of the MDs who've been up on the stage now for the various financial contributions that our churches in Canada and members have made to mission in GCI over the years. That was very kind of them to say that, so thanks for the thanks. And it certainly goes to our membership and to our pastors and the congregations they pastor who have donated those funds. But I wanted to kind of build on that thought. You know, God, Father, Son, and Spirit live in a mutual gift exchange. You've perhaps heard that expression used in the last few years in our denomination, and it's a good one. You think about the way of life practiced by Father, Son, and Spirit from eternity has been a mutual service, a gift exchange to one another. You even think of what's revealed about the Spirit, how the Spirit testifies or points people to Jesus, not to himself, right? How Jesus came to reveal the Father, and he said he only spoke the words the Father gave him. And then how the Father, in turn, is the source of all life and blessing. So it becomes a gift exchange, and that we are called to participate in that gift exchange, in that way of life that's so beautiful and precious. Paul quotes Jesus in Acts 20, verse 35, a verse I think we're all familiar with, that it's more blessed to give than to receive. And I want to point out, there's many things we could talk about, and I'll list a few at the end of the time I have here with you, but I want to focus on one particular thing, because as much as there's a heart amongst our pastors and our churches and our membership to help out with mission beyond our borders, that has come back to us as an absolute wonderful blessing, and I want to spend a few minutes and explain that to you, that we're in a gift exchange. You know, when you give, it's amazing how that blessing comes back, as it very much has to our churches. So okay, you probably didn't know what that is. That's Canada. It's the nation that's to the north of you. We have 44 churches in Canada, 2,500 members, but many of them are older and shut-ins in some cases, several hundred are. And so the average church attendance on a given weekend is probably 1,000 or 1,050, something like that. We have churches in both French and English languages. Our Francophone churches would be more in the province of Quebec, and of course the English churches in the other parts of the country. We have a French website which has a fair bit of translated material that our Francophone brethren in Africa and other places have found helpful to them. So we're thrilled that you use it. Please continue to. And our translation team in Montreal is delighted to know that it's of benefit to not just themselves or to Quebecers or French Canadians, but to people in other countries as well. Population of Canada, it's much smaller than the U.S. It'll be 37 million sometime next spring. The country's composed of 10 provinces and 3 territories. The population huddles around the southern border. Some say 80% of the population's within 100 miles of the border. Maybe that's not totally true. Edmonton would be a city of well over 1 million people, and it's 5 or 6, 7 hours drive north of the border. But generally, the northern part is fairly lightly inhabited, almost uninhabited, and the southern part is where we congregate, because the land is more arable, summers are warmer. We seek warm weather. The one thing Canada doesn't have is a lot of warm beaches, so that's why a lot of Canadians come to Florida when they're able to, or Hawaii, or places like that in the winter. 1 out of 5 Canadians is foreign born. And that's the highest percentage of any of the G7 countries. So 1/5, 20% of the population was not born in Canada. The city of Toronto, Alvaro, our Toronto East pastor, may correct me on this, but I believe is just about 50% born outside of Canada, which is perhaps the highest of any major city in the world. So Canada takes in many immigrants. Actually, our natural birth rate is very low, and if it weren't for immigration, our population wouldn't go up much at all. And so it's the 300,000 or so immigrants a year that are actually building the population. They say that Canada, in terms of arable land, food, and so on, could support at least 100 million people. So there's still a lot of empty space, a lot of room to grow. Although most immigrants settle in Vancouver and Toronto for some reason, but there's a lot of country out there. 17% of Canadians are second generation. So in addition to the 20% born outside of Canada, a further 17% are second generation Canadians where at least one parent was born in another country. And so that's partly why there's this interest in mission. And I appreciate Bill Hall, who will be soon succeeding me next summer, preparing some of these stats, because it helps explain even why there's this passion to help out in other parts of the world. There's still a lot of connections to other parts of the world from many of our members as well as the general population. Canada's immigration policies have involved the acceptance of refugees in fairly significant numbers, and it's beginning to have a large impact on our congregations. And so I want to start with an interview here. This will be Fraser Henderson, who's here. He's associate pastor in Ottawa, pastor of Cornwall and Smiths Falls, interviewing Nova Musafiri, whom we have recently hired part-time, who's an elder in Ottawa. And just to tell his story, a bit of background, the Ottawa church has just about doubled in attendance in the last 4 or 5 years. It's gone from about 55 each week to, I think in June they hit 119 or 20. And so so you begin to see the tangible effect, primarily of immigrants, mostly from Africa, though other places as well, that have settled here. So I want to then play you this interview once I get to the correct...
Hello from the GCI Ottawa-Gatineau congregation. We have been working with the Canadian government now for 5 years to help bring over and settle refugees. In that time, we have brought over 100 refugees from 31 different countries and from a number of different faiths. We have seen the demographic of our church change significantly, as we now have about 50% new Canadians attending in our local congregation. Today I was speaking to Nova Musafiri, who himself was a refugee and is now been helping not only establish the program that we use now, but also maintain it and keep it running for the past 5 years. Hello, Nova.
Hello, Fraser.
You were a refugee. What is the greatest need that has been met by your emigration over to Canada?
Yes, first of all, I have been a refugee for more than 17 years. I lived life without home. But being in Canada, this is a privilege from God, because I'm no longer living in fear. The greatest need for me is that I've been able to attend college in Canada, and I'm able to work in Canada. I'm able to live or walk freely without fear again, which I couldn't have when I was in a refugee camp, or which I couldn't have when I was in my own country.
I imagine coming over to Canada has a lot of culture shock associated with it. Could you share with us what that can look like when a new Canadian comes over and settles?
Yes, as you know, the culture shock is part of the weather in this country. But many of the refugees are very, very surprised when they come to Canada and keep asking me if they can have to carry their identification all the time when they're walking around. Because for them, they've been living in a life whereby they have to carry identification, the life of fear, expecting someone to arrest them, the life of fear, expecting they can be shot dead by someone, a life of fear, expecting that they can be arrested anytime. Now for them to live in a freedom country like Canada and tell them you can walk without carrying your paper or identification, it's something, it's like a shock, it's like a surprise for them, for refugees to be in Canada and live freely.
And what would you say is the greatest challenge for a church that is trying to help settle refugees in their area?
The challenge is, one of the challenges will be like helping them to find a job. But the main one is to get volunteers who will be helping for the paperwork and also helping in filling of paper through and following up with immigration. As long as the church has enough volunteers who are willing to help refugees once they come here, this is the main challenge we got when we started. But so we are okay because so many people in our church are so much willing and involved in this program.
And what would you give as advice to a church that was unable to directly get involved in bringing refugees over, but still wanted to find some way to participate in this mission?
Yes, we need prayer from those churches. We need support. We need their financial support so that we can reach to people who are in need. Remember again, Grace Community International has some churches in a refugee camp, especially in Malawi and Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya. We have more than 400 members who are still suffering, have been there in this refugee camp for more than 15 years. We need help, especially prayer, in order to reach to them and help them in their situation.
Thank you, Nova. According to Matthew chapter 25, verses 31 to 46, we are told that in helping refugees flee persecution, violence and starvation, we are welcoming the stranger and so welcoming Christ into our churches. We would heartily encourage other GCI churches to make every effort to participate in Jesus' compassionate mission to those in need, to those refugees in need around the world. Thank you.
I should mention Nova's here along with his wife and children, and the beautiful dresses she wears were made by her husband, who learned to make things like beautiful women's dresses in the refugee camp in Kenya before immigrating to Canada. So if you get a chance to meet them, that would be great. All right, so we'll move on to another story, this one from Winnipeg. And the pastor, Alan Redmond, and his wife, Carolyn, are here. Winnipeg is full of energy for mission and service and outreach, and Alan has many stories of many things, but we'll focus on one here. Maybe I better give you a wee bit of background just to set this up. In 1999, Muksun Sise and his fiancée, Mabinta Kamara, fled civil war in their homeland of Sierra Leone, West Africa. Muksun found his way to Turkey, Mabinti to Russia. In 2004, Mabinti, this is the lady, came to Winnipeg as a refugee sponsored by a church couple, Rick and Inga Catelier, members of the Winnipeg congregation. Muksun and Mabinti were married by proxy. In 2005, Muksun, also sponsored by the Cateliers, came to Canada. Muksun first recycled old computers from members and others in Winnipeg to bring them to the almost computer-free educational system in his homeland of Sierra Leone. In time, he began to receive low-cost and later free computers from Wesley Penner, a Winnipeg businessman. Later, Wesley moved into a full philanthropic role and has personally financed what is now an amazing technology college at Mile 91 in Sierra Leone. And Alan Redmond just informed me that school is now officially accredited and can grant Bachelor of Science degrees in computer science. So again, you help people come and so it's an amazing ministry that, and again, think of that, the gift exchange, right? You help them come over, and now our church is able to help build something which will no doubt feed back blessings, and it's just, it's wonderful to be a part of it.
I have always wanted to get some good IT training, but often wondered where, when, and why. Allow me to share my pleasant discovery. Situated on the outskirts of Freetown on mile 91 Freetown Highway, Silicon Hills, just opposite the former Camp Charlie, is the Canadian College of Modern Technology. And apart from its serene environment, which makes it most suitable for learning, this certified and accredited Canadian College of Modern Technology, with its well-experienced international and local teaching staff.
We offer courses in computer science, business administration, human resource management, development studies, and mass communication.
They will help you develop and demonstrate effective problem-solving skills to be successful IT professionals. You may also like to know that this fully equipped institution is not only special for its wireless connectivity and its unique waste management policy, which seeks to help reduce their carbon footprint, but also has a 24-hour solar electricity power supply and a backup generator. This highly secured campus also has a clinic, student hostels with clean running pipe-borne water, a canteen, and state-of-the-art learning facilities to make learning a good experience. Enrollment for 2016 starts right away. And here's a little secret. For the year 2016 and 2017, all registered students who meet all financial obligations will be provided with personal laptops to help them with their studies. So hurry now and get your application forms, or contact them on these numbers: 079-630-407 or 099-140-208 or 025-343-175. The Canadian College of Modern Technology, where knowledge and hard work are the ultimate.
Canadian College of Modern Technology is the place where careers begin.
Keep it high, rising, higher.
Anyway, that's cool. So my time's up. There's more stories, but you got 20 or 30 Canadians in the group, so pick their brains. We got 2 great summer camps, East and West, and we're participating with Jesus and wanting to yield ourselves to even more.